Are you building a home and are frustrated that you've gone out to the job site and there wasn't anybody working? Maybe 2 days in a row there wasn't anybody working. You're outraged. You think the builder is lazy, doesn't know how to schedule, insert derogatory builder comment here. What's funny is, as a builder, I get to hear a lot of this, not the stuff with my own company that I'm hearing directly from a customer, but I'm hearing, secondhand about other people who have had experiences building homes, and I get to hear the complaints. Now, I am not sitting here standing up or vouching for every builder out there. I'm sure there are some that are bad at scheduling and maybe just generally bad at what they do. For the most part, though, where I think a lot of these comments come from is because the customers don't have an understanding of the process, and unfortunately, the builders aren't good at educating them on the process and continually managing expectations. So, this video is about why are there days on a job site that nobody is working? And I'm talking about work days, weekdays. I actually call them non-working days or non-working weekdays. Sometimes I just call them holes in the schedule. Let me back up to when I am working out a schedule on a project. I will actually take a house. Let's say we were building a house where the schedule is a little more feasible to work out. So for example, if I'm getting a multi-million-dollar project, I don't really try to run out a schedule on that from the beginning because I can just look at it and go, we're going to be in this for 18 months or something. It's impossible to really try to drill down on the timeline. But if I were given a home that was a 2,700 square foot living house, reasonable type of build that we know we can work through in a timeline, I may sit down and work out a schedule. One thing I will do with that schedule is I will fill in a lot of non-working days. Now here's why I do this and why it's just a reality of building a house. As a general contractor, and I just did a video on what this is, a general contractor is the company that manages the entire project. As I like to say, it's the company whose name is on the sign. And so we handle all aspects of building a home. That includes hiring other contractors known as subcontractors to do the work. As a general contractor, we're like a general practitioner. We know a little bit about everything, but we don't have employees that are plumbers or electricians or framing contractors. We hire those contractors to do that work for us. Part of our job is to manage everybody, to use the best contractors we can for the process. The scheduling is the challenging part. I have said to my customers, my homeowners, being a general contractor is like undertaking one gigantic scheduling exercise when you build a house. Why is this? Well, it's because the contractors we're hiring, let's say the plumbing contractor, may work for 5 other builders, may also be doing service work with, regular customers out there who have a plumbing leak at their house. So that plumbing contractor may have a crazy schedule. Hey, we've got other builders with homes coming online. We've got customers calling us to do work at their house. And so they've got a busy schedule. We have a schedule. We are trying to estimate as best we can when we can get that plumber in there. So building a house is a fairly sequential project. You couldn't put a roof on it until the house has been framed, things like that. And so we have to continually estimate when the current contractor's work is going to be done to get the next contractor started the day after. In a perfect world, you would never have any of these non-working days because you would say, okay, my insulator tells me they're going to be done on Wednesday. I can have my sheetrock or drywall contractor in there on Thursday, right? It would be one coming in right after the other. And oftentimes it does work that way. We are always trying to get the next contractor in line in the day after the current one or the one finishing up their work is done. If you could have that happen perfectly, you would be living in a perfect world and you would never see a day without work happening at the house. But unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a world where there are tons of variables at play. So, for example, I have told people when you're dealing with the contractors that use actual machinery, let's take your excavators that are out there with tractors. not uncommon to have them call you the day they are supposed to be starting to say, blew a hydraulic line on the dozer. We're getting it fixed. We will be there later today now or maybe tomorrow. Things like that happen. You also just have cases where the contractor currently in there is estimating when they're going to be done. Hey, it's a big house. We've got an electrical crew in there of 5. We think we're going to finish on Friday. Well, as general contractors, builders, we're scheduling the next one to come in based off what they're telling us. But sometimes they don't finish in time. Earlier this year, we had an entire electrical crew get hit with the flu or COVID. I don't remember which one. At this point, we have all the above, right? What did that mean? Well, it meant that they took longer than they told us they were going to because nobody expected they were going to get sick and lose time. Or I've even had this. They finish ahead of what they tell us they're going to. We've lined everybody up to start on Thursday because the electrician said they were going to be done on Wednesday. Then they call us on Monday, said, hey, end of the day, we finished up. We can't get the other guys there any quicker. That basically we've got a hole in the schedule because the previous one finished up faster than they said they were going to do the work. So this is what we deal with. And what I explain to customers, and here's just, I'll just make up an example right now. I've probably had this happen before. Again, sequential. Let's use the spray foam insulator as an example. We cannot do drywall till we are done insulating. Let's say that spray foam insulator tells us they are going to be done on Wednesday. We have lined up our drywall contractor to start on Thursday. Wednesday morning, the insulator calls us and says the rig broke. We have to go get parts. We are probably not finishing this job until Friday. So I call the drywall contractor, or my superintendent calls him, says, we don't need you until Monday now. The insulator's running behind. Please start on Monday. Drywall contractor says, no can do. You were a 3-day job. We were going to work Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then we have a commitment with another builder on Monday. We now have to put you behind that other builder. So that's only a 2-day job with the other builder, but we can't start yours until Wednesday. So in that type of hypothetical, which I'm pretty sure has happened before in my life, we're losing 2 days. That drywall contractor cannot be there until Wednesday, even though we're ready for them on Monday. So you see how this works. There's a lot of kind of guesstimating on when somebody's going to finish, when we can get the next one in, and it is constantly moving around. That's why I say it's a big scheduling exercise. There are times that we may say, okay, we've got a hole in the schedule of 2 days with that major contractor, but maybe we can have somebody else over there doing something. The goal would be to always have some kind of progress happening. That isn't always possible, but that's the goal. You can also get into unique scenarios like we just had happen with a cabinet shop. I've used a cabinet shop for years that I love. They do great work. Everything about them is great. But they said they have never in their career had this happen where right when we were ordering a very big job of cabinets, they had been hit with more projects than they had ever been hit with in their life. Talking to the owner, he said it was unique. Some of these builders they had been dealing with for a year and a half, and the builders themselves were way behind schedule. And these were big projects. When I say big projects, you're talking about cabinet jobs that were almost $500,000. So big. And some of these slotted in right before I put in my order. And it caused something I had never seen before, which was we can't get to you for months. So in some cases, I had to move to a different cabinet contractor. In other cases, it was a lot longer than I wanted, but it was workable. What we did there was we did some things out of order, and there are some situations where you can do that. In a perfect world, again, I would like to finish all the drywall texture, then get the cabinets put in along with all the trim and doors, then send a painter in to paint everything, then do the tile flooring. But what we did was instead, we sent the tile installers in there to do their work because it kept progress moving on the job while we weren't just sitting dead in the water waiting on cabinets. Now it's a little more work because then you have to make sure all the tile is covered up really well because you are doing all your painting and staining after the tile is already in. So those kind of situations as a builder, you're trying to do everything you can to keep progress working. But again, the point of this video is to provide some education on what builders are actually dealing with behind the scenes. It's not as simple as, well, that builder's a bad contractor because he didn't have somebody there today. It may have been he could not or she could not get somebody there today because of the way things worked with the previous contractor and what the scheduling was of the next contractor to come in line. So just know, again, I'm not standing up for all builders. There may be some who are not good at their jobs, are not good at scheduling. But for most builders, the goal is to build as efficiently as you can. I always tell my customers, I don't mean to be tacky when I say this, but we want a house to move as quickly as it can within reason because it's how we get paid. I don't want a job to just sit there and have long delays for no reason. We aren't getting paid when a house is not being built. So it's always in a builder's interest to move as efficiently as they can. But again, there will always be times when this is going to happen. So hopefully your builder is wise enough to educate you on this process, to let you know this is going to happen. I send out Monday emails to all of my customers with the proposed schedule for the week. I always joke with them, the word proposed is always going to be in there because it's a proposal of what's going to happen. In that example I just gave you, things can change depending on what's happening with the contractors currently working and the next contractors to come in. But I'm trying to allow my customers to have a feel for that week's schedule. I think 1 week ahead is what most people really care about. It starts to get kind of abstract to start thinking about where are we going to be 3 months from now. But this week, people can plan their day around, I want to go out and look at what's happening today. And I've had times I've had to email people and say, there will be nobody there on Wednesday and nobody there on Thursday because of this hole in the schedule that has happened because of, again, all the variables at play with contracting. I may say there's not going to be the main contractors there, but we may have somebody doing this work on the outside or something of that nature. But the goal is to, set their expectations weekly about what is happening on the job sites. That's where I think a lot of builders fall through the cracks. They don't do that. You get a customer that goes out there, there's nobody working, and they just throw their hands up in the air and say, what is going on with this builder? So hopefully this video gives you some education on how it works behind the scenes with the scheduling. Again, one big scheduling exercise. So I hope the video helps with that. I really appreciate you guys watching these videos. Click like if you don't mind. That helps the video be seen by more people. And I'm having a heck of a time doing these. These are the videos I'm just kind of doing at my desk about certain things, but I'm certainly going to do, half of my videos out in the field also where I'm pointing at that stud or pointing at that piece of concrete and explaining what's going on with it. So thanks for watching.